sights to see, rolling hills or city streets, ocean to ocean and all in between. It's out there just waiting on you and me. So look alive, 'cause while I was waiting for you, paradise is on the other side.
Welcome to Unreasonable, put on by the Jacksonville Civic Council. Interesting interviews from Jacksonville's most iconic entrepreneurs, CEOs, and wonderful success stories. They do things that are unexpected, unreasonably, in order to make their own change. In each episode, you'll meet passionate change makers who are rewriting the rules and daring to dream bigger for their community and our city. My hope that their stories ignite something in you, that you'll be inspired to reimagine what's possible and lead with purpose in your work, your life, and right here in Jacksonville. You're going to really be inspired. Welcome to the very first podcast of Unreasonable. I'm Josh Martino. I'm a member of the Jacksonville Civic Council, and I'll be your host. Today, we have Gary Chartrand. Gary, how you doing?
Great, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Gary is a successful businessman, philanthropist, civic leader. Gary's chair of the Civic Council. He is also the author of Unreasonable Leadership, a book about what can be accomplished no matter the odds or what others think is impossible. So, Gary, you grew up with 20,000 chickens on a farm in New Hampshire. You also played minor league baseball in Holman Stadium, where Roy Campanella and Don Newcomb played. What was your path to Jacksonville, where you became a successful entrepreneur and community leader?
Well, I went to the University of New Hampshire, and I actually graduated and moved to Portland, Maine. Got a job with the Carnation Company, which is now part of Nestle's. So that was my entree into the food business, and spent about 7 years with them. They transferred me to Jacksonville. That's how I got here. I had a choice. It was time for a promotion, and they gave me a choice of Jacksonville, Florida, or Houston, Texas. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to be a cowboy or a redneck, so I picked the redneck piece.
So as the author of Unreasonable Leadership, there must have been a time when you first realized that to be successful in life and to impact those around you, sometimes you have to ignore the status quo and fly in the face of what's perceived to be reasonable. When did you realize that this unreasonable mantra would be your North Star?
Well, I played a lot of sports, and I do remember when I was 16 years old, I was playing American Legion baseball, and actually I was a catcher, and I was catching a guy that went on to play in the pros, Mike Flanagan, played for the Baltimore Orioles Cy Young Award winner. And I remember reading in the paper that we were in the New Hampshire tournament, and the article basically said that I had a weak throwing arm and that we were going to be in trouble, and they were a fast team and they were going to steal me blind. And I threw them all out. Very unreasonable.
Does that come from a chip on the shoulder, being doubted? You like to prove people wrong?
Yeah, I do.
You like to be underestimated?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was an interesting time. You know, I was being picked on, if you will, in the paper that I was the weak spot.
Yeah.
So, you know, I said, okay, I'll show you. And I think God was looking out for me, you know.
Yeah.
I was able to throw a few strikes down to second base. And
it rained the night before, the base paths were
right,
a little slower.
slow, exactly.
Yeah.
I take whatever luck you can get.
So where does that come from? Where does that drive to prove people wrong come from?
I don't know. I think, you know, as a young kid, I just always wanted more. I played a lot of sports, and I played the three major sports, you know, growing up: football, baseball, basketball. And I just always had a real drive to succeed and excel at what I was doing. And so I guess when I got into the business world, I carried that with me.
So how did you convert this unreasonable mantra and this unreasonable lifestyle into unreasonable leadership, where other people were looking at you for technique and strategy, and here's this guy that's in charge of, you know, this company, look at how he is. How do you convert that to your leadership role?
Well, you know, I think to be a really good leader, I think you got to be able to connect with people and build relationships with people. And then I think the whole world's based on relationships, right? And it's not different in the leadership business. I think if you can motivate and inspire people to do something that they normally wouldn't do on their own, then you're a leader.
And there's no one way to do it. You seem to have a chameleon approach, right? And especially in your industry, your next industry with Acosta, which we'll get into, there's so many different personalities. There's so many different businesses. There's so many different brands that you're representing. Probably hundreds and hundreds of people you're dealing with. There's not one hammer for one job, right? You have to have a whole toolkit to deal with all these different people. Is that a skill you developed, or did that come to you naturally?
I think it was, I had to develop it for sure. I mean, obviously you have some God-given talents. And thank goodness I think I had at least the talent to want to succeed. And also knew from a very young age that nothing was easy, that if you wanted to succeed at something, you had to put some hard work into it. And, growing up on a chicken farm, hard work is part of what you do. It's a tough business. I mean, you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, got to collect the eggs early. You've got to make sure the chickens are fed. And then, of course, you got to clean up the mess they make as well, which is not the fun part.
Right. So you went from chicken farming to probably representing 1,000 different chicken products.
Right.
So in 1974, Acosta was a Jacksonville-based sales and marketing company that served the supermarket industry, had about 26 employees.
Yep.
And you decided to take the regional company nationwide.
Yep.
Some people thought you were unreasonably nuts to believe you could do that. So just for everybody listening, what does Acosta do? And, what values does the company rely on to be successful?
Yeah. So the company is a sales and marketing agency, also referred to as a food broker. And basically what we do is we represent manufacturers of food products. And instead of them having their own sales force, they outsource it to our firm. And they pay us a commission. And a lot of manufacturers that were smaller and mid-size would go that way because it was so expensive to put their own direct sales force. They could tap into our network, and that we could do it, we believe, better, faster, cheaper, which is, I think, the secret to business, right, and being successful. And then as we grew and as we got more sophisticated, the medium-sized companies and then even the larger-sized companies started to come to us. So, and I always say, hire character first and competence second, because you can teach new skills, but it's pretty difficult to teach new character. So I was always very focused on hiring the right kinds of people. And people do make the difference, especially in a service business. So I think that was the secret to our success. We had great people that worked hard and were able to produce terrific results.
So a lot of people have delusions of grandeur, right? Then going national, very risky, probably terrified of failing at some point. There are probably moments that were pretty tough. Tell us about some of the times where, the towel was in the hand but not necessarily thrown, where you were facing down challenges you didn't know if you were going to make it either way. What were some of those points where you really had to face it and make a move?
I remember a meeting that we had in Tampa, Florida. I brought in, I think, our top 15 clients. These are our biggest clients, paid us the most money. And I had this idea of going national. And one of the reasons was that Walmart got into the food business and started opening supercenters all over the place. And where they opened up a supercenter next to a Publix or a Winn-Dixie in the South, they took business away from them and me. And I wasn't doing business with Walmart. And knowing Walmart as we did, they weren't going to slow down. They were going to go. And I felt like we were going to die of 1,000 cuts. It's not a good idea to die of 1,000 cuts. So
Painful.
So we just got together as a group and said, really, the only way to combat this is we got to be everywhere in the United States because Walmart's going to expand everywhere. So we got to go put together a strategy to become national. And we didn't really have money to go out and buy companies. So I had gotten to be good friends with a guy in Chicago who had a company that was in 10 states in Chicago. And I went to see him and laid out the plan of becoming a national entity. And I said, look, I don't have any money to buy you, and I suspect you don't have any money to buy me, but we could merge. We'll do a tax-free stock exchange, and then we'll have half the country, and then we'll kind of see what happens from there. And so we did that. And when I did that, he was representing Minute Maid orange juice, and I was representing Tropicana. And I got a call from Brian Cornell, who's the CEO of Target now. He was the president of Tropicana, and said, you need to come down to Tropicana. We got to discuss this because we hate Minute Maid. And I said, Brian, we don't have Minute Maid where we have you. It's up in the Midwest. And he said, we don't care. We hate them. We don't want you to have them. So I talked to my new partner, Bob McCarthy, and he said, well, let's go see Minute Maid. And when I flew over to Houston and met a guy by the name of Ralph Cooper, who was the president of Minute Maid, on loan from Coca-Cola. Minute Maid's owned by Coca-Cola. And he said, what's your plan? I said, well, we want to take the company national. And so I told him the whole plan. He said, I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. If you resign Tropicana tomorrow, I'll give you Minute Maid in the South. And that'll take Tropicana was bigger, so not all the revenue replaced, but most of it. And he said to me, if you do what you say you're going to do, I'll follow you nationally, and I'll be your first national client. So I went down to Tropicana, met with Brian Cornell, resigned Tropicana, which kind of shocked him at the time. Minute Maid came in. We represented Minute Maid, and then we ended up going national, and Minute Maid followed us. They were our first national client.
Another unreasonable decision.
Yeah.
It was kind of a safety valve there with Tropicana, but you chose to take the risk with Minute Maid for maybe a long-term payout.
Correct.
And I'm guessing they honored their word, went national with you.
They did. They followed us all the way, just like they said they would.
That's why you have an affinity for Coke products, probably.
Oh, I don't drink any Pepsi or have anything to do with Pepsi. Sorry.
So you say there's 6 steps to unreasonable leadership.
Okay.
I won't make you say all of them.
No way. You might want to read them to me because I probably forgot them.
But in general, what is the process for implementing these steps to unreasonable leadership?
Well, I think you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, so it's human nature to stay in a safe, reasonable, comfortable place, right? But progress doesn't happen there. So I think you have to become uncomfortable or make yourself uncomfortable and stretch yourself and that's how I relate to sort of unreasonable leadership. And I think that's what happened is, we were doing really well as a company in the southeastern United States, but, Wayne Gretzky said, you got to skate where the puck's going to be, not where it is. And we felt like, Walmart was going to continue to open stores all over the country, and we needed to get ourselves in a position to be able to do business with everybody in the U.S. So we went from 13 states to 50 states in 15 months. Then we were able to build out the national platform. We were the first company to do so. A lot of people thought we were crazy. And then Minute Maid honored their commitment, and they followed us nationally. We were our first national client.
And then you were off and running.
Off and running, and then people started to follow. And, Clorox came over, and then all of a sudden, it was a trend, and we ended up representing, 1,000 clients nationally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into your passion for education, philanthropy in general, where you've invested so much time, leadership, your own personal money. Why is education of children so important to Gary Chartrand?
So I had the opportunity, I would say, to live the American dream, right? To have a company, take it national. We ended up selling it to private equity for almost $5 billion. It was a great run. And I wanted to make sure that other people had the same opportunity. And as you know, in certain parts of town, there's, the dropout rate was high. At one time, when we really decided to get into education in a big way, there were 22 F schools in Jacksonville, all in the inner city, and just said, this isn't fair. I mean, they're going to go to an F school. They're probably going to drop out of high school. A lot of them are going to end up doing bad things, end up in prison. That's not the life that you want. And so the only way that we felt to avoid that is highly educated people are going to be more productive citizens for the community, and we need a well-educated community.
So as an advocate for these kids, do you feel kind of like, you pull your shirt open, there's a big G on it, right? I'm going to protect these kids. Is that what motivates you to go on the state level and fight on the national level and get these kids choice opportunities and get them out of, a situation that may seem like they're underwater? What is it about you that wants to take that on as their leader, as a voice for them? There's got to be some connection there.
I think it's really based on the success that I've had. Born on a chicken farm, and then was able to, get a college education. My parents worked really hard to make sure I could go to college. I was the first person in my entire family to graduate college. And so I've been blessed with that. And so many kids aren't. And I've also been blessed with financial resources. And so I wanted, it's time, talent, treasure, right? I wanted to invest where I possibly could. Time was serving on the State Board of Education, serving on different boards around education. Talent, that's probably where I'm a little short. But treasure, yes, we've spent a lot of our money in the world of education. One of the first schools that we brought here, John Baker and I worked on this, along with John Payton when he was mayor, to bring the KIPP school to Jacksonville. And they've got 3 campuses now and about 4,000 children.
Is there any individual student story that you take, an exceptional pride to, that's really touched your heart?
There's one in particular, young man that actually called me just a little while ago, and we went to have lunch. And when he was living out of his car, he was in the underserved community. I met him. I gave a TED Talk at the Florida Theater, and he happened to be in the audience. And when I came out, he approached me and said, would you help mentor me? And like I said, he was homeless. And anyway, I got him a computer because he didn't have a computer, and mentored him along the way. And he ended up going to college, and he's now very successfully in the real estate business. And he called me just a few months ago and said, I'd like to go to lunch with you. And he told me I changed his life. And so if you just change one person's trajectory for the better, it's all worth it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Well, you've been a member of the Jacksonville Civic Council since the beginning, since its inception. Mm-hmm. And people say it's different now from how it used to be, even 2 or 3 years ago. So how has the Civic Council changed, and why did it need to change?
Well, when it first started, I think people looked at us kind of like as a good old boy club. But we've gotten a lot more sophisticated. Again, people hired the right staff. I think we have a very solid president now, CEO, Dennis Whittle. Great staff. So the structure's been put in place, the right people have been put in place, and we try to take a much more intelligent view of some of the biggest issues that are facing the city. And we've done a lot of research. One of the things that we've learned through the research is our ad valorem real estate tax is the lowest in any big city in the state. I'm not here advocating to raise taxes, but you can't run the city on the cheap either. And one of the things that we've been working on here recently is to try to figure out how we can fund a full-day 4-year-old program, because we don't have that. The state of Virginia does, and they fund it. It would obviously require a new tax, which is a difficult thing, but all the research shows that the sooner you start, the better off you are. And so I'd love to see us get a full-day 4-year-old program, VBK program. And I think it would help the parents as well, because typically both parents are working, so send the kid off to school all day and go to work.
So the transparency, more inclusivity, more assertive people on the Civic Council, right? How has that helped tackle community issues where before, like you said, if it was a good old boys club, it may not have been taken as seriously as an organization. Yep. Has that helped the Civic Council be taken more seriously? And how has, letting everybody know who these people are, has that helped be more effective? I
think we're moving in the right direction. I'm not sure we're fully there. For a long time, we acted out in secrecy. It was like this secret club or whatever, which was kind of interesting. But I guess we just didn't want a lot of publicity, and we quietly worked behind the scenes. We're now out in front and taking positions on some of the biggest issues out there and trying to be collaborative with our membership to make sure we get the right answer. And and work with city council on a lot of issues, work with the mayor's office, and try to do the right thing for our city. Our mission is to become a world-class city. And that's why education is so important.
By 2032.
2032.
As a conclusion, we ask all of our guests the same question. Are you, Gary Chartrand, unreasonable?
I think so. I don't know how unreasonable I am right now. Was I unreasonable? Yeah, I think I tried to accomplish things that people told me I couldn't do. And going national with our company was one of them. And then tackling education, I'll call it unreasonable or nuts, one of the two. But it's a really difficult thing to change. It takes a variety of things, including public policy and going to Tallahassee and making sure that the leaders that we send there understand how important it is to have a great education. And we're working on that right now with VBK. We'd love to see the legislature do what Virginia did and say, okay, the state's fully going to pay for a 4-year-old program. Will we get there? I hope so. But we won't get there if we don't work on it.
Right.
And have the commitment to make it happen.
So the George Bernard Shaw quote, essentially about unreasonableness, about taking things as they come to you and just accepting them basically, or I'm gonna flip that upside down and I'm gonna make my own way. I'm gonna be unreasonable and change that up. I'm gonna go make my own way. I'll make my own changes. I think it's time for, Jacksonville to take on that attitude.
I do too.
Yeah. So how close are we? I see change now. I see, after living here since 2003, I see that change. I see it in a lot of different ways in our leadership. How do we keep it going and then really break through?
I think it takes a lot of people working on it and being united in what the vision really is, and then leadership, because someone's got to lead.
Well, I agree, and I think that's a great place to wrap. Thank you for your leadership. Thanks for all you do for really everyone, but especially with the young people in this town, making a difference, changing the future of Jacksonville one kid at a time. And we're very grateful at Unreasonable. Thanks for the title, and thanks for being our inaugural guest as we kick this thing off, but we really appreciate you.
Great. Thank you, Josh. I've enjoyed it. Appreciate
All right. Well, that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for tuning into Unreasonable, and we'll see you next time. Look for us online, follow us on social media, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.